Yo, what's up, people? Welcome back. So in John chapter 10, Jesus promised that he came so that we may have life and have it abundantly. So abundantly comes from the Greek word perissos, which means abundant, exceptional, extraordinary, beyond anything you can imagine. Let's face it, it's a big life he's talking about here. So here's my question to you. If you can imagine an abundant life, and if you're healthy enough, smart enough, wealthy enough to go get that abundant life for yourself, what do we need Jesus for? What? It's a legit question. I think the key in that question, though, is what can you imagine? Because I can imagine quite a bit. So it reminds me of a scene from a popular movie, but I don't want to use the real names and break any copyright laws.
It's because we're Christian and we do the right thing, right?
Okay, so let's just say the name of the movie is Star World or something like that. And the two main characters are Suk Lai Walker and San Holo. So in this scene, Suk was trying to convince San to rescue the princess.
Help me!
But San needed some motivation. Let's check it out.
Listen, if you were to rescue her, the reward would be...
What?
well, more wealth than you can imagine.
I don't know. I can imagine quite a bit.
I can imagine quite a bit. So what he's saying is that if he can get the biggest reward he can imagine, he'd be set for life. So is that how we should live our lives? That we imagine an abundant life and then we take care of it all by ourselves? So let me ask you this. If Jesus were to stand in front of you today and gave you two choices, which one would you pick? Option number one, you would be granted whatever abundant life you could imagine for yourself. Option number two, you would be granted whatever abundant life God could imagine for you. Which one would you pick? So if you believe anything about God, you probably believe that God is bigger than us, right? So if you believe that God is bigger than us, don't you think that God's imagination is bigger than ours too? Yeah, I thought so. So what is this abundant life Jesus is talking about? It's a life where we allow God's plans to unfold in our lives, to follow those crazy ideas that you know make no logical sense, but you know you need to do it because if God put them there, that's God's imagination at work in your life. So what does God imagine for your life? I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that Jesus made a promise, and Jesus has never, will never break a promise, and he said, I came that they may have life abundantly. And so someday you could ask him, but in the meantime, here's some of my friends who have found God's abundant life in the here and now. Let's check it out.
I think we can have an abundant life and not be aware of it. God sends miracles every day. We just have to train our eyes to be aware of them.
I think that a sunset or a sunrise or the nature is a peek at what God has in store for us as an abundant life in heaven.
First, I have to admit that I'm not a bird lover, but I was so overjoyed that the mom trusted me to oversee her babies from nesting to flight. It really made my day during this pandemic to see a miracle unfold. Now I miss them and hope that they will return one day. It was just beautiful.
So here's one of my own. I thought I understood John 8:12 after doing that Light of Life Devo until I got this from one of my little buddies at church. Check out what he writes.
When I was reading this verse, I was imagining God with fire in his hands and people by his side following him.
How stinking awesome is that? That's some God imagination right there. And so what does an abundant life mean to you? Do you limit what God can and can't do by your own imagination, or can you admit that God's imagination might just be bigger than yours, and those blessings that happened in your life that you never could have imagined might be part of that abundant life that Jesus promised you? So here's where I stop yapping and you take over. What I ask for you to do is to leave a comment. In 5 words or less, tell me what an abundant life means to you. I'll even start you off with one of my own. But here's the cool part. When you reveal what an abundant life means to you, you give someone else a peek into God's abundant imagination. So give it a shot. 5 words or less, what an abundant life means to you, and check out the blessings that others have left for you too. God bless.